Welcome to Teaching Truth. My name is Glenn Cartwright. The theme for our reflections this week is Jesus Christ, our only hope. We're living in a world where, whether it be internationally, nationally, politically, economically, culturally, or personally, there often seems to be little hope. And yet Jesus Christ is the only hope. Yesterday we were looking at hope in the middle of fragility, looking at the fragility of Job's life and considering the lessons that we can learn from that particular Bible character. And today we come to another Bible character to look at hope in the middle of failure. And when I mention the word failure, many of you might well be thinking of Peter, the disciple, and you're right. Peter's failures, in some respects, defined him. Whether it be when he lost faith and began to sink when walking on the water, many have considered that a failure. Or whether it be when 3 times he denied knowing Jesus. But Peter failed on many other occasions as well. For example, he failed by falling asleep in the Garden of Gethsemane, by trying to stop children coming to Jesus, by not understanding how selfish he was and is when he argued with the other disciples about who was the greatest, by not consulting Jesus but rather committing him to pay the drachma tax, by refusing at first to let Jesus wash his feet. And he also failed when he quitted as a disciple and went back to the fishing after he denied Jesus. Let's just say that Peter was just one big failure. He messed up big time. He just made a hash of it, a dog's breakfast, if you like, of things. And so isn't it all the more amazing that Jesus, for all of that, for all of Peter's failures, trusted him. Jesus told the disciples on the night that he was going to be betrayed, that he would be delivered into the hands of his enemies and be put to death. And Peter answered Jesus, well, though they all fall away because of you, Jesus, I'll never fall away. I'll always be there. And yet Jesus very perceptively said, well, I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter goes on to say, even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. Of course, we know what happened next. Peter denies Jesus 3 times, the cock crows 3 times, and the other disciples all run away. And we're like Peter. Sometimes we can let Jesus down by running away and failing to stand up for what is right, for failing to take that opportunity to witness, for failing to release that prophetic word that could well be significant for someone in their life. The sequel to the account of Peter denying Jesus is that there is, though, restoration. Jesus restored him and used Peter in a powerful way. You see, when you think as Peter could well have done, after he denied Jesus and heard that cock crow 3 times, that it was all over, actually, as we said yesterday, with God, it was just beginning. Because Peter, the fisherman, the very person who had denied Jesus, not just once, not just twice, but 3 times, who was a coward, was the first person to whom Jesus appeared. I love that phrase of Jesus in the Gospels after Jesus had risen again. Go and tell my disciples and Peter. Peter became one of the founding fathers of the early church. He served as the Bishop of Antioch and then the first Bishop of Rome, and has often been described as the rock on which the church would be built. You see, Peter's failures in the eyes of Jesus did not define him, and neither will ours define us. You see, because failure need not be final, and failure with Jesus is never final. The most humble and effective leaders I know are those who've failed, who've messed up sometimes big time, but who have put their trust, their faith, their hope in Jesus Christ, their only hope. Jesus chooses failures, and that's why he chose me, and that's why he chooses you. Shame over past failures can inhibit and haunt us, and if left unchecked can destroy our faith and mar our hope. And like a dredger dredging the riverbank, Satan loves to dredge up the failures of the past and tell us that we are no good. Well, let me say this, that if you feel like a failure today, feeling that you've maybe let people down and Jesus down as well, don't deny it. Don't wait for the cock, as it were, to crow 3 times. Don't wait till it's too late. You might feel useless, a failure, of no use whatsoever. Well, let me just illustrate it in this story. 2 friends were standing at the bottom of a garden, and one friend looked into the garden shed and said to his friend, "Oh, I like the look of that old golf putter." His friend said, "Well, take that thing away. It's been lying there for years, gathering cobwebs and starting to rust. If you can do anything with that, which to me is no use, feel free." So his friend took it away, dusted it up, made it look nice. And years later, a ball was stroked on the 18th green at St Andrews. And with that shot, Bobby Jones went on to win the Open Golf Championship. And yep, you've guessed it. He did it with that old putter that had been lying for years, gathering cobwebs in a garden shed. But in the hands of the master, there was nothing that old putter, once restored, couldn't do. And so in the hands of Jesus, once restored, there was nothing Peter, the failure, couldn't do. He became the rock on which the church was built. And in the hands of Jesus, once restored, there's nothing that you or I can't do. For failure with Jesus is never final. Jesus specializes in transforming failures into rocks of strength on which to build his church. He did it for Peter, and he can do it for you and for I.